Francisco Acevedo was born on September 2nd, 1968 in Meriden, Connecticut. He committed 3 homicides of women in Yonkers, New York between the years of 1989 and 1996. Francisco was one of 3 children born to Yadira Acevedo. His parents divorced when he was 14 years old, after which he would move in with his father. According to court documents, he abused alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine at the age of 12. He dropped out of high school during his freshman year. He would work a series of low-paying jobs, including a laborer, a cook at a pizzeria, a dishwasher at Testa's Silvertown Inn, and a midnight baker at Dunkin' Donuts. In the 1990s, he was living in Mount Vernon, New York. He met his wife while working at the New Way Kitchen, with whom he would go on to have 2 sons. On July 3rd, 1986, 3 years before his first known homicide, Acevedo picked up a woman in his company truck in Meriden, Connecticut. He then drove her to a secluded area. He bound her hands, blindfolded her, and proceeded to SA her. The woman escaped when Acevedo fell asleep. He was arrested and charged with first-degree SA. He was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. He was released early in June of 1988. On November 11th of 1997, he was charged with misdemeanor assault of his wife in Yonkers, New York. The charges were later dropped. On August 30th, 1998, he was arrested again for breaking his wife's nose after punching her in the face. He was charged and convicted of a misdemeanor and spent 9 months in jail. Acevedo was arrested for the 4th time in Brentwood, New York, and charged with drunk driving. While he was in prison, he voluntarily gave a sample of his DNA as a part of his optional parole application. That would prove to be his downfall. His DNA was linked to evidence from 3 decades-old homicide victims. 3 homicide victims were discovered in Yonkers, New York. The 3 women's cases were linked by DNA found at the crime scene and on the victims. However, they had no suspect at the time. It would be almost 30 years before Acevedo would submit his DNA linking him to the 3 homicide cases. Victim number 1, Maria Ramos. Maria was only 26 at the time of her homicide, living in the Bronx, New York. On February 5th, 1989, at 8:52 a.m., her body was found beside a sewage plant in Yonkers, New York. She was the mother of a young daughter. Her daughter celebrated her 3rd birthday just 11 days prior to her mother's body being found. At the time of her homicide, she was working as a prostitute. Her body was found on the sidewalk, posed with her legs spread wide apart. Her hands were tied behind her back with her own pantyhose. She was seriously beaten, SA'd, and stabbed in the chest. Her mouth was open. Her 2 front teeth were forcibly removed. Her clothes were found in a pile nearby. Her jewelry was found on her body, eliminating a failed robbery attempt as a motive. Her COD was strangulation. Victim number 2 was Tawanda Hodges. Tawanda was only 28 years old, living in Bronx, New York at the time of her passing. She was discovered on March 28, 1991 at 10 a.m. Her body was found posed on a pile of gravel in the backyard of a fuel oil storage terminal in Yonkers, New York, just 820 feet from where his first victim, Maria Ramos, was found. Her body was found unclothed except for a pair of muddy socks still on her feet. Her arms were tied behind her back with her own pantyhose. She was assaulted and SA'd. There was an empty Budweiser beer can and a couple Newport cigarette butts found near the body. She was the mother of 3 young children. She was remembered by her family and friends for her sweet, girly smile. At the time of her passing, she was a known prostitute. Unfortunately, her grandfather collapsed and passed away at the funeral home upon seeing his granddaughter's body, showing the unfortunate impact that violent crimes have on the victim's family and friends. Her COD was strangulation. Victim number 3 was Kimberly Moore. Kimberly was only 30 years old, living in Greensburg, New York at the time of her passing. On May 24, 1996, her body was found at the Trade Winds Motor Court Motel in Yonkers, New York. She was found unclothed and had been essayed. Unlike his other victims, Kimberly's hands were tied behind her back using a telephone cord. An empty 40-ounce Budweiser bottle and 10 Newport cigarette butts were found near the body. She was assaulted and essayed. This time there was a witness. A hotel clerk saw Acevedo and Moore together. The hotel clerk would go on to testify at his trial. At the time of her passing, she was said to be a prostitute, but her family refutes this claim. Her COD was strangulation. Acevedo was charged with 3 counts of essay and 3 counts of second-degree homicide. He pled innocent to all counts. However, with his victims being prostitutes, the 3 counts of essay were dropped. He was found guilty of 3 counts of second-degree homicide on the first day of jury deliberation. He was sentenced to 25 years to life for each victim to be served consecutively, which means that his total sentence is 75 years to life at the Green Hill Correctional Facility. Join me next time where I'll be discussing Edward James Adams. And a special thank you goes out to @Boston ASMR for her help in the making of this video. And as always, stay safe.